A lot of people are being disingenuous about this Leonard Cure case. A lot of people are acting as if Leonard was robbing a bank or going around and attacking random people with a machete or something like that, when all it was a traffic stop that he 100% complied with. You know what I'm saying? He complied with. He complied enough. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the cop escalated the situation by approaching Leonard in an aggressive manner and screaming like a maniac and ordering him to get out of his car over a simple traffic stop. And a lot of people are claiming that Leonard was going 100 miles an hour. There's no evidence that he was, because they haven't released the footage of him going that fast. But I digress. He told Leonard to get out, and Leonard got out, and Leonard matched his energy, because when somebody's coming at you aggressively, you know, you have two choices: be submissive or match their energy. You know what I'm saying? Leonard complied. He pulled over as instructed, and he got out the car as instructed, but he wasn't about to be abused. He was going to stand up for his rights. So the cop told him to put his hands on the back of the car, and Leonard did it. Then the cop told him to put his hands behind his back, and Leonard refused. He did not remove his hands from the back of the car. And people are acting like that's such an egregious violation. That's such an egregious infraction. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen cops go from 0 to 100 because somebody didn't comply like with an order to get on the ground like a dog, or they didn't come here where the cop told them to come here, over a situation where a crime, a very minor crime may have been committed, or no crime was committed at all. You know what I'm saying? You know, like just jaywalking situations, or smoking in a non-smoking area, situations like that. You know what I'm saying? Like Betty Shelby shot Terrence Crutcher because he didn't get on his knees like a slave, and she was God. You know what I'm saying? Because Terrence was having car trouble. Terrence wasn't even committing a crime. They found out that there was PCP in his system, but they didn't know that. And that had nothing to do with why he was being approached or detained. You know, he wasn't visibly committing a crime. You know what I'm saying? They would have no way of knowing that he was on drugs. And a situation in Atlanta where a female cop tased a black teenager because he was vaping in the park. You know, she ordered him to get on the ground like a dog, and he refused, so she tased him. You know what I'm saying? That was not even close to being necessary. You know what I'm saying? You get violent with somebody, you know what I'm saying, for not getting on the ground or putting their hands behind their back, or coming here when you order them to come here, over a minor infraction or a non-existent infraction. This is why a lot of people don't like police. But people who do like police don't really see a problem with that. You know, like this kind of behavior reminds me of the movie The Pianist, when the German soldiers threw an old man out of a window because he wouldn't stand up when they told him to. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is backwards behavior. This is against human nature. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not supposed to get violent with somebody unless they're being violent. You know, saying tasers and punches and kicks, that's supposed to be in defense of yourself and others. But I digress. So anyway, the cop tased him. He tased a non-violent man who was standing still, who had his hands on the back of his car, and he tased him because he wouldn't put his hands behind his back. You know, what would have happened, you know, if he just left his hands on the back of his car? What was so bad about him just leaving his hands on the back of his car? You know, backup would have came, and y'all could have talked and explained what was going to happen, what the situation was. You know what I'm saying? But your ego couldn't deal with him leaving his hands on the back of his car because he didn't jump for you like a little monkey or something. So, and people keep claiming that the cop acted in self-defense, even though the cop tased him first. He initiated the violence. You know what I'm saying? And Leonard was wrong for not complying with being tased. You know what I'm saying? You have no obligation to comply with being harmed, physically harmed, especially if, the infraction wasn't even that serious. Especially if the original infraction wasn't that serious, especially if you're not even being violent. You know what I'm saying? The man was just standing still and the cop got violent with him. So that's why he put his hands on the cop. If anybody was acting in self-defense, it was Leonard. Okay? It's far easier not to kill somebody for a minor or non-existent infraction than to comply with some coward with an ego problem. And I don't really know, most of the people who are defending this are, mostly white people. And I don't really know why white people are so mesmerized and in love with law enforcement. I don't really know. I guess they never left that childhood phase where you look at cops as literal superheroes. I was in that phase at one time because, as a kid, I watched television and I thought cops were heroes from the age of 1 to 12. And also, as I didn't grow up in the hood, you know what I'm saying? So I had very limited experiences with law enforcement. And I'm sure a lot of white people had limited experiences with law enforcement. My experience with law enforcement was similar to most white people. I saw them in very controlled environments like school functions where they teach you how to say no to drugs, or they teach you about stranger danger or something like that. It wasn't until I became a teenager, when I became 14, and I started go across the tracks and play basketball or football with my hood friends, that I start having more and more interactions with law enforcement. And most of those interactions were negative. I wasn't doing anything wrong, but cops came at us very aggressive, very hostile, and very disrespectful. And those experiences added up in my mind. Like, those experiences kept happening, where the cops were, became more and more indistinguishable from the average assholes that I didn't like in school. And as I got older, from 14 to 20, it went from being fearful of the police to hating the police, because I got older and bolder. So that fear turned into dislike. And I'm sure that's where Leonard is coming from. Initially you fear the police, then you start to dislike them as you become more and more bold. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of white people, your worldview is shaped by your experiences, not by the experiences of other people. White people are not, their view is not going to be shaped by the experiences of black people. Their worldview is going to be shaped by their own experiences. And, a bad experience that they may have had with a cop is not enough to shatter their worldview of their perception of the police. Because the first time I had a negative experience with a cop, that didn't necessarily shatter my perspective of police. It just kept adding up, where I'm really just minding my business, doing what a child is supposed to do. And they keep coming at me like I'm a fucking adult and being over aggressive with me. You know what I'm saying? Time and time again. You know what I'm saying? A white middle-aged person, may have had a negative experience with a cop in college when they were out on the town drinking or whatever. But that's not enough to really shape their worldview. They can't. That's not enough to shatter their childhood view of cops as heroes. Because, to be honest with you, it has to be a childhood indoctrination that makes them think the world of cops. Because most of these people have never seen or witnessed a cop saving anybody. They never witnessed a cop saving anyone's life. They never witnessed a cop taking a bullet for somebody. They never seen a cop protecting anybody. They never seen this. So their positive perspective of police officers comes from television in school.